Okay, so welcome back to Lawrence Explains Online Academic Tuition. In this video, we are taking a look at the English Language Paper 1, Question 3. So in previous videos, I've looked at questions 1 and 2. Feel free to go and check those out. In this video, we're going to look at question 3. So this is a structure question. So question 3 on AQA and also often on other boards as well, either question 3 or question 4, will be a structure question. So we're going to look at how to approach a structure question and the different things that we need to think about when we're dealing with a structure question. A lot of students find this question a little bit tricky, a little bit counterintuitive, so hopefully this will be helpful. Okay, so the text is from the beginning of a short story. How has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader? You could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning of the source, how and why the writer changes his focus as the source develops, any other structural features that interest you. Okay, so for this question, I've pulled up the actual extract again, and the full piece again, and we're going to first and foremost, we're going to divide the text into sections. So let's just have a look. How many sections would I divide this into? First couple of paragraphs there, I would say this is, his sort of current life, how things are going right now. This next section is about his, I would say, disillusionment. And this kind of, in a way, lack of enthusiasm, his waning enthusiasm. For his job. So that would probably be my section 2 there. And then section 3 would probably be this whole second part. This is all about Tibbott's work and the effects that it has on Mr. Fisher. So that would be how I would divide my paper up. You could divide it into, 3, 4, maybe more sections. I probably wouldn't go more than 4 or 5 sections. For me, that's going to work for my analysis, so that's how I'm going to divide things up. So the first thing I would do here, as I would say, go back to my answer, okay, let's say section 1, or beginning section. And I would actually say where it runs through as well, so from lines 1 to 8. Right, we have Mr. Fisher's current situation, where he lives, his work routine, and how his class is going as well. And so this is very much introduces the character, gives the setting, and also gives us a bit of an insight into his his mind as well. This has been a disappointing start to the year. And we're introduced to this kind of humble, teacher type figure. He says he's got a small house, and it's just kind of lives alone. Studious man. He's an older man as well. So studious older man living alone, and this is his life really. We also get in, as I said, we're getting insight into his mind. So to begin with, we're introduced to the character. So it's a slow, steady introduction. Then we go from lines 9 through to 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. Lines through 9 through 24. Okay, so seeing that's section 1. Let me just shift this over. Okay, so section, in fact I'll put that. Oops. I'll put that down here. Section 1. Section 2, which is lines 9 to 24. We get a sense of, this is kind of a sense of nostalgia and memory. So now this section of text is backward looking. So our attention has been guided into the past now. So it's all about thinking about where the attention is guided to. And so the focus has now changed from the present to the past. And it is by the accounts of Mr. Fisher. There is a kind of glorious past of imagination, it's kind of rich imagination, which we've analysed in a previous question. Stories, what did they do? They jumped, soared, pounced, exploded like rockets. So we've got this sort of very dynamic storytelling, and that contrasts with the contemporary students who seem to be basically bored, disengaged, and they've kind of seen it all. So there is a contrast that is laid out there. Sullen boys, gelled hair, perfect teeth. Shakespeare was born. I wonder what era this is. Maybe it's like the 80s or 90s. It's definitely, I would say, pre-internet, because it doesn't mention anything to do with the internet, but I think it's probably 80s or 90s. It was all boring to them. So there's definitely a contrast there between current students as well. So I would pick out maybe 1 or 2 quotations that would also just illustrate that as well. So that would be my section 2 analysis. Just move this. Okay. And section 3, so the last section, was really all about the effect of Tibbott's work on him. So it's all about the effect of Tibbott's work on him, and he kind of builds Tibbott up. He had a spark which deserved attention. So now we're looking at Tibbott from Mr. Fisher's point of view, and he almost he almost kind of has to sacrifice. He misses the bus here to get into Tibbott's work. We've got all of the kind of physical sensations as well that come into play here. So what section is with that? So from line 25 down to, where was it? 40, 1, 2, 3. 25 down to 43. It's all about Tibbott's work. And it has an almost physical, well, it does have a physical impact on him. So the intensity of the storytelling really has an effect on Mr. Fisher. We've got strange sensation, tightening, muscle, breathing quickened, sweating. Okay, I think it means a little bit much, I think, but anyway. Sweating, etc. Because maybe he just, he's got so used to the lower quality of work, he's really takes him by surprise. And it goes a step further and really goes into the inner thoughts of Mr. Fisher, goes into his inner thoughts and reflections here. And he describes himself as similar to a prospector finding gold. So those would be the sections that I would break it down into, and I would discuss how our attention shifts from Mr. Fisher's present and his kind of overall just sort of day-to-day life. In the second section, we look at things a bit more nostalgically, and he compares this kind of glorious past with a much more barren present in which students are not excited about Shakespeare or Dickens. And then the final section, in a way, it's a section that is kind of redemption for Mr. Fisher. He has the ability to look at a student's work, and it's so striking that it has a physical impact on him. And then further down within that section, we really get the inner thoughts and emotions of Mr. Fisher. So there's a number of different layers to this in terms of the structure. We start off with, kind of physical situation of Mr. Fisher, where he lives and so on, and his sort of general social, his existence as a social being, and his kind of the introductory part to the setting. Then we look at his memory trace, and then we come back into the present, and we're looking at his response to Tibbitt's work. So shifting perspectives through the source there, and we would want to trace those through our analysis. So that is what you do for these structure questions. You break the source down into usually 2 to 4, maybe 5 sections, and you discuss how your attention is shifted and how the focus of the passage shifts throughout. So hopefully you found that useful. I'll come back in the next video. I'm going to take a look at question 4 on this paper.